Welcome to Every Day is a New Day.
Kim O'Neill from KimO'NeillCoaching.com.
We are live. Welcome to another episode of Every Day is a New Day, where I have inspiring conversations with really awesome guests about moving forward and choosing to embrace a positive outlook. My name is Kim O'Neill, and in addition to being your host, I'm also a personal empowerment and interview confidence coach. And if you'd like to find out more about how I can support you in standing in your power more confidently and making sense of the chaos in your head, in your personal and your professional life, then I invite you to connect with me over on Kim O'Neill Coaching. And I saw that. Can you see me again, Ken?
I can see you.
So, the unexpected happens sometimes. And anyway, we are happy to have you here. And with that said, I'm going to get to introducing today's guest. So welcome, Ken Bator.
Thank you. Great to be here, Kim.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to just get out of the way, reading everyone, your formal bio, getting,
Appreciate
them.
That.
Yeah. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about Ken, and then we're going to get to really see him because he's such a fun, awesome, interesting person. I'm so happy he's here today. So, okay, here's a little bit about Ken. Ken has more than 20 years of experience in helping organizations reach new levels of effectiveness by aligning their brand, culture, and strategy. He is the founder of both Bator Training and Consulting and the Police Officers Credit Union Association. He is the author of the Pocket Guide to Strategic Planning, the 90-Day Quick Fix for the Business Owner or Manager, and the Formula for Business Success equals B plus C plus S. He was born and raised in Chicago. He earned a BS in finance and an MBA in entrepreneurship from DePaul University. And today he's on the Every Day is a New Day show.
Woo!
Woo! Oh, Ken. So how are you? Are you having a good day today?
I am having a decent day. It's been a travel day. I get to have a great pleasure and fun to work with one of my clients here in Omaha, Nebraska, which is a city that I always have fun in and always have fun with my clients. So flights were on time, the hotel is comfy, and the Wi-Fi works. So, hey, I'm having a good day.
Okay, I must be on a Nebraska streak because my last guest was also in Nebraska. So this is interesting. Yeah.
Well, we need to get out of Nebraska. It's cold here. I need to get back to Long Beach where you are.
I know. The most I can say that's different is, oh, man, we got dark an hour earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, Ken, I would love to hear more about you. And this is a loaded question, but tell us more about how you got to where you are today.
A former crime analyst giving me a loaded question, pun intended.
Yeah.
I started Bator Training and Consulting in 2001, and the story that I always tell, because people ask, why in the heck did you do that? And I always say, well, I got canned. I was VP of marketing and business development for a $4 billion financial institution in the Chicagoland area. And new management came in, and I was one of the first to get a nice check and a pat on the back. Actually, I just got the check. I didn't get the pat. I had decided to start my own business. As you mentioned in the bio, I had earned an MBA in entrepreneurship, and during that program, I actually had to do a business plan. Some people have to do a thesis for their master's and so on and so forth. I had to do a business plan, and it was for a training and consulting company. So, after I left, I said, you know what? I got the plan. I might as well give this a shot.
That's awesome. That's like a slam dunk. You already did the work. Might as well do it.
Well, you and I and every other entrepreneur knows that it's hardly a slam dunk.
Yeah.
It's more like that. It's more like that 3/4 court shot to try and win a trip to Ensenada or something. But
yeah, or like the shot from what is it, Okay, I don't want to say the wrong sports terms. I'm probably going to say a football reference and basketball terms. So just forget it. I won't even say it.
Okay, yeah, don't go there then.
Wow. Okay, well, that's interesting. I like that. So now, how long have you been doing this?
It will be, I think, 17 years technically 17 years in February is when it was actually incorporated. Okay. But actually, the story goes, I got canned on August 31st, 2001. And the morning of September 11th, 2001, and we all unfortunately know what happened that particular day, I was filling out some paperwork for my lawyer to get this business started. And actually gone to the post office to drop that off, and then went to the health club and looked at the TV and went, oh, holy crap, what's going on? So I, in essence, basically took the plunge for a new business on 9/11. Probably not the best day to start one.
Now, obviously, you did an MBA, but had you? I mean, it sounds kind of like you hadn't decided that you were going to start your own business. It just sort of fell into that rhythm. Is that correct?
It kind of did. It's the MBA is actually a funny story in and of itself. In that, and I use it to share with some of the college students that I mentor from time to time. Is figure out what you really are jazzed about and go and be the best at it. And when I got my finance degree that you mentioned, I really didn't want to go into finance. I had people saying, go into accounting. You always have a job. It's like, well, I freaking hate accounting. And so I kind of did a compromise, because I really had a joy for marketing and branding and sales and all that. So I said, all right, I'll do finance. I'll compromise with you. And so I did it, and I enjoyed it. It was okay. And then, went into banking, obviously, and working for a $4 billion financial institution. And in the 90s, I was pretty focused on moving up that so-called corporate ladder. So I knew I was going to go back for the MBA, which I did in 93. And my original major for my MBA was accounting, because I figured, all right, I've already got the finance degree. I'm working in the financial industry. I might as well bite the damn bullet. Since, you said loaded question earlier, we'll keep with the theme. Yeah, I might as well bite the bullet and go and get a whole MBA in accounting. And DePaul is one of the best accounting schools in the country. So they don't just let you through. And in the very first class in the midterm, I failed it. And, I may not be the smartest guy in the room, but, I don't fail tests. I don't get, D's and F's. Failure on that type of level is not what I was used to. So I went and talked to the professor and said, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know if I'm, really in the right program. I mean, here it is, the first midterm, and, what's going to be a pretty intense program. What do you think? I need some advice here. And I wish to God I remembered this professor's name, because I would give him credit. But he was a great professor. And he just kind of looked at me and says, you know what? That's not an after class question. That's a beer question. So wait right here, and we'll go across the street. It was a night class, so it wasn't like in the morning. It was like 9:30. We went over to the bar. And we talked for a good half hour, 45 minutes. And to make what's already a long story short, he said at the end of our conversation, look, he says, this obviously isn't for you. This isn't where your passion lies. If you promise to never take another accounting course for the rest of your life, I'll get you out of this class, and then go and change your major to something that you actually enjoy and are good at.
Wow, that's awesome.
It is. And so the entrepreneurship program, I had some interest in it because it was fairly new at DePaul at the time. And so as soon as I kept my promise, as soon as I got out of that class, I went and changed the major to entrepreneurship. Never have taken another accounting class in my life. and I'm happy to go and work with my CPA for my business every single year because I don't know how to do that stuff.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay. Now, also knowing the other part of your story, that you're the president of the Police Officers Credit Union, correct? Association.
Right.
How have you found that having some accounting in your background has helped a little bit?
God, no. No, my background in the financial industry, especially with credit unions, helped with that. I know many very qualified credit union CEOs that are great leaders, that also learn, leave the accounting to the accountants, find a great CFO and a great CPA, and let them handle that. Obviously keep your finger on the pulse of the numbers. You need to know your numbers, but you don't necessarily need to dive into that every day. The way I got involved with the Police Officers Credit Union Association is in 2002, one of my first clients was Chicago Patrolmen's Federal Credit Union.
Okay.
And the new CEO there, who is still the CEO today, Scott Arney, was looking to do some sales training, some culture building, and things of that nature. And we kind of got introduced through a mutual friend, and I wound up doing some work for his institution. And we became friends and good colleagues, and we were having lunch one day in 2003 or 2004, I believe it was. And I said, in the credit union industry, they usually have these niche groups. For instance, teachers' credit unions, firefighters' credit unions has a coalition, even airline credit unions kind of have their own little consortium. And so I asked him, don't police credit unions have anything like that? And he said, not to my knowledge. And we did some research and went and had lunch, I think, a week or two later. And I said, so, since there's nothing like this out there, you want to do this? And so with his help, we created what is today the Police Officers Credit Union Association.
That is so cool. I love, it really sounds like so many pieces just came together and fell into place for you. And you really found a niche spot that used both your background, but also your passions and things that you're good at.
It kind of did. I give credit to, making sure that you connect with good people, and smart people, smarter people than yourself, at least, in different areas. And Scott Arney is definitely one of those people. And I think back as to times in my little entrepreneurial life when, I've gone out of my way to create and seek people for what I call my great circle, that are truly sharp people that, are accomplishing things and want to accomplish things with you. Good things happen. And, when I've kind of at other times kind of gone into my shell and just tried to do everything on my own and if not concentrated on making those connections, the business certainly is not gone well. So shame on me for doing that.
Ken, I want to ask you, what do you think has really supported you in being able to move forward in challenging times in your life? What comes up for you when I ask that?
My wife. There's certainly been, challenging times. And, when I started this business, actually, I was on my first marriage. And, frankly, the business and the marriage and a lot of things didn't go well and ended up in divorce, of course. But meeting, my wife today, Peggy, she's an awesome support system. In fact, when we first got together and I was struggling with the business a little bit, I remember, her telling me, I believe in you. And I'm like, wow, nobody's, my parents kind of said, hey, you can do anything. And they were always supportive. Don't get me wrong. They're good people and have always kind of given me support. But nobody ever actually said those words, which were huge at the time.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Isn't it interesting too, how something that can sound so simple can make such a positive impact on the individual hearing a message like that?
Oh, of course. I obviously those words were uttered almost 10 years ago, and I remember it today. And, it's still, on some days that are rather difficult, I remember those words and they kind of ring in my head every so often.
I love that. It brings up a memory for me, just like what you were saying. I still remember verbatim what someone once told me. I never want to see this ex-boyfriend again, but he's the first and only person I've ever, well, maybe not the only person. He's the first person where I ever actually heard, "You're perfect just the way you are." And I heard it, I received it. And I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know how much I needed to hear that. So I share that with anybody who may need to hear that today, because the same goes for you as well. And it's so interesting. Yeah. Like, don't care to necessarily interact ever again, but so grateful for that message.
You can even make a song out of that,
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I have found that support system is so key. Just like you were saying too about that in your business, you make sure to connect with people that are going to, it sounds like, be a strong support network in business for you in some way. Is that, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. And I could say honestly, that's not something I've always done well, but have been really focused on over the last 3 or 4 years. I mentioned, Scott, he's been a close colleague of mine since 2002, 2003. And, we've continued that.
What have you learned? What have you learned since you mentioned it wasn't always easy to do?
It's tough to really say that I learned it. I think it's a daily struggle. Okay. When you're an entrepreneur and you're a type A personality to begin with, you think that you know everything and that you could do everything on your own, and you almost want to do everything on your own. And frankly, I still haven't gotten to the point where I think I really need to be. But yeah, I think over the course of the last few years, really kind of dug into my own head and ego and said, look, why would you not want to tap into some great expertise and knowledge of these other people that you may not have? It's one of the phrases that I use every so often is, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong damn room. So I'm trying it, and I've got good people like Don Mask, who I've worked with on a number of occasions for the last 6-7 years, who's retired Air Force, has been a CEO, started businesses and so forth. Connected with a gentleman that you may know from the News Media Summit, Sean Douglas, who's actually active Air Force. Maybe there's like an Air Force theme. Maybe I was supposed to be military or something. But work with him on a regular basis, and other people too that I'm probably forgetting at the moment to not give credit for. But those are a few people that that I've actually sought out. It's like, all right, I need somebody to not only just guide per se, but to give some, hey, you're too close to this. The best way I could put it, and I'll finally shut up because I think this is good for your audience, is for years and years and years, I always kind of thought that being a consultant was much like being a great mechanic. It's like, all right, I can fix cars. My car's messed up. I'm just going to fix my own car. And, I found out that analogy was actually really, really ignorant. In that the right analogy is, you may be an awesome brain surgeon, but if you've got a brain tumor, it's probably not a good idea for you to operate on your own brain. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with finding the people that can, give you a look that you just can't see.
Yeah. Personally, I think it's a really smart move to be mindful of the fact that, hey, anybody, right? You know a lot, you have a lot of experience, you're awesome at what you do, and yet there's still always going to be blind spots. There's always going to be more that we can learn, always going to be more room to grow and expand into. And by doing exactly what you said, surrounding yourself with people who know more than you do, then you provide, an environment where you can do that. Otherwise, you're not going to go very far if you're not, connecting with other people and trying to up level in those ways. So I think it's a really smart thing to do.
Yeah, every once in a while I come up with a smart move.
Okay, well, so what I love is how you're from Chicago. My well, I'm not from Chicago, but my grandfather was a retired Chicago deputy.
Nice.
And yeah. I had never shared that with you. And so I love that you're from Chicago, and I love that you aren't necessarily a former, cop. But you are, you formed this Police Officers Credit Union Association. That's so cool and in support of law enforcement. Will you tell us more about, why police officers? Why does that interest you so much?
The interest in police officers or law enforcement, frankly, came later. The initial interest was from an entrepreneurial standpoint of, there's nothing here, and frankly, there should be. There's no association for these financial institutions, and other similar groups have these associations. So, I can do this. I'm a guy that can bring all these people together. So the original impetus was just the motivation of doing something that nobody else had done, and seeing all these people collaborate and so forth. Later on, I would say that it became also a passion for law enforcement. Now, I've always, it was never hey, I never really liked law enforcement. Now I'm running this POCUA thing, and now I have to like police officers. It was never like that. I always had an affinity for what these folks do. But it became a passion, frankly, over the last number of years, where it just seemed that people in that profession were just getting vilified. And I won't say that there aren't bad cops out there. Sure, there are. But I certainly don't believe that. I believe that 98% of them are good people doing a tough job that just want to go home to their families. Yeah. And a lot of times you see these stories, and I just shake my head and say, why are we beating up these people?
Yeah, I completely agree. When I worked at the police department, I'd come across officers who literally gave money out of their own pocket to, homeless guys or to families who are struggling. I remember one officer, literally bought shoes for someone. And at the time I was like, what are you doing? I was like, and he just they have a really big heart, and they're in it to help people and to be of service. And you're not going to see a police officer on the best day of your life. Most, more often than not, that's going to be the situation. But, but I just think it's awesome to connect with other people who do see the value that law enforcement can provide, and that does provide, and, that support it. And anyway, so I just think that is so cool that, you've developed that passion, and now you've created the Police Officers Credit Union Association. Is very cool.
Yeah, and I hear you mentioned this great stories of police officers, and I hear them all the time. As through my work with law enforcement and Scott Arney's credit union, Chicago Patrolmen's and National Police Credit Union, I co-host a show called Beyond the Call, which we had the pleasure of having a certain crime analyst on at one particular time. So for all your audience, if they want to see Kim O'Neill in a slightly different vein, go and check out Beyond the Call. I think it's episode 3 or episode 4. But I hear those stories all the time of people buying shoes. Or we had a guest, Officer Jennifer Cooliff out of the Phoenix Police Department that runs Hoops for Hope. a group for challenged girls, teenage girls in the Phoenix area, and I can go on and on, but there's a lot more stories like that than there are, the one out of 100 cop that just does something stupid or bad.
Exactly. And and the reason why I brought that up too is because a lot of those stories do not get publicized these days, because there's been so much of the opposite, all the vilification happening. We have been seeing more of them. That's what I've noticed anyway. But I think there are way more that never get noticed or shared, acknowledged. Another trend I've noticed is they don't want to be recognized or patted on the back for those kind of things, right? They don't do it for that reason. So, anyway, so awesome.
Yeah, I've heard that too from a number of my guests and other colleagues in law enforcement. I'm not being in law, having never been in law enforcement. It's tough for me to understand. But a lot of these folks just want to be in the background. They just want to do good and not be in the spotlight and go home. That's what I've noticed too. I just want to take a quick pause and say hello to our live viewers. We've got some really awesome comments directed, personal comments. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for that. And we've got Corrine Swart here saying she believes in the 98% too. So awesome to have you here, Corrine. And for anybody else, please do go ahead and comment below. Let us know if you have questions for Ken. He's got this really interesting combination of being an entrepreneur. He has an MBA in an MBA. Okay, he's an MBA. And, but he's also I've said it like a million times now. He's also the president, right? The president. Is that what it is? You're the founder. I'm the founder. Yes.
You're the founder.
I think on my business card somewhere it says CEO, but you can call me whatever you want.
Okay, well, whatever you want. He's do whatever you want of the Police Officers Credit Union Association, and he is here local in Southern California. And then you own your own business, Bator Training and Consulting. Let's just take a quick moment to talk about that. What's your favorite thing about the training and consulting work that you do for people?
I just kind of like tomorrow and this weekend. I love facilitating. I love public speaking and working one-on-one with my clients, but I just have a lot of fun facilitating a group and helping to guide them to where they want to go for either a better brand or to improve their culture through team building or to build a strategy that makes sense that they're actually going to implement, not just write a 180-page plan. I'd rather have it on 2 pages, but we're actually going to do this. That's what I get jazzed about. I love being in that group and kind of leading them in a direction and then shutting up and letting them really create things on their own, because I like to say, and maybe this was a little bit different when I started the business, but I like to say over the course of the last 5 to 8 years, I realized, I don't really give my clients a lot, except for maybe stories and examples and things and tools. But really what I do more of is I bring out what they already have that they didn't realize. Especially when it comes to branding. A lot of times it's, you already got something there. Let's polish it off and make it better looking and then put it back out there.
What do you think? Because I've heard this a lot. There tend to be misconceptions about what branding is. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit?
No, I don't want to talk about that at all.
Okay, scratch that.
As a brand expert, I don't want to talk about it.
Scratch that. Talk about it.
I've got a long definition, but the best way to think about it is it's your unique story. Every business, just like every person, has a unique story. How do you tell that unique story? Sure, selling and marketing is somewhat of a part of that, but it's really not about pushing product. It's more about putting that image out there and saying, this is why we're unique. This is why we're different.
what do you think are some of the roadblocks that people repeatedly miss when why they're not quite hitting the mark with their branding?
Yeah, I think that one is they're trying to sell rather than connect. I think social media has really brought to light what branding really is for a lot more people, because people realize that when you try to sell everybody on LinkedIn, or all you post on Facebook are things about your new products and services, you don't get a lot of connection. But when you put feel-good stuff out there, in fact, I'll bring police back into it. I think the National Police Credit Union does an awesome job of branding, because on their social media, they talk a lot about what cops are doing and what they're doing around the country. There's very, very little selling. Also, since we're talking about credit unions, I think that Navy Federal Credit Union has an awesome brand campaign through their advertising. And if you've ever watched a football game, you've watched football, right, Kim?
Yes.
You ever watch a football game? You probably seen a Navy Federal Credit Union commercial, and they'll have somebody, like a woman that's getting married, and they'll show her in a submarine, or a guy that's taking his girlfriend's or wife's little chihuahua or a little poodle in the car or whatever. And it's maybe a 30-second commercial, but they only talk about product for about 2 seconds. What they do is they humanize their members, which are in the military, and then they make the connection with, hey, this is our mission to serve these people. And then, by the way, we offer savings and checking and loans and all that. That's the problem that I think a lot of places fall into, is they want to sell and say, hey, look how great we are, rather than saying, hey, you know what, this is how we're unique, and this is how we serve a specific niche.
You know what? Thank you so much for sharing that. And I feel like it goes right back to what you were saying earlier about, type A personalities may find it challenging to say they could maybe use some help, right? Or there might be something they don't quite know. And yet that's a fantastic example. The Navy is taking that approach. And I think we're seeing it in other areas too. I know there are some kind of like celebrity cops these days who are making a positive difference. But the reason why they're celebrity-ish is because they are connecting with other people.
Right.
So, yeah. I want to take a quick look at the comments here. So we have Brandy here. I know she said she's struggling with this comment stream, but she said, I'll do this in two. As an LEO wife, I know that the goal is to come home at the end of the shift and keep your squad safe during the shift. I know my husband avoids the spotlight. The 98% are amazing people. So thank you so much, Brandy. Thank you so much for sharing that, Brandy. And oh goodness, I love talking with you, Ken. You're just fun.
I try to be. I'm pretty laid back.
So I have here one of your books. Let's share with the audience your book. Is this okay? Is this, you want to talk about it?
Please. No, don't share my book so, tons of people could see it. No. Yeah, share the book.
Okay. So here we go. He's got his book,
That's a sharp looking book.
The Formula for Business Success, B plus C plus S. So let's tell everyone, what is this? What does this mean?
It is brand, culture, and strategy alignment. In other words, what is the image we want to promote out in the public? What's the experience we need to create both for and through our employees? And how do we drive more of the right business to our business? Brand, culture, strategy.
Wow. Okay. This is why you're the expert. I don't even know what the next question is.
Well, it's I gave you the Cliff Notes version, which which maybe, but what's funny is it took me years and years to really get that straight in my head. How brand, culture, strategy kind of started to come about was well before I even started this business and did consulting and training and facilitation. It started somewhere in the 90s when I was working my way up the corporate ladder at that particular financial institution. And, I went for an MBA. I went to this seminar on empowerment. I'd grab a book on employee engagement. I'd go and read something about re-engineering. And I tried to grab all this knowledge, and I just kept thinking, all right, well, how does all of this kind of fit together? Like, for instance, if I wanted to do re-engineering and also create empowerment among my people, could I do both at the same time? And the short answer is, yeah, you really can. Re-engineering is kind of a strategic tactic, and empowerment is kind of a culture building tactic. Sure, you could do that and have two separate goals, and you could also show how the two of them align in terms of maybe re-engineering to create more of a culture where people are getting things done more efficiently and therefore are happier to be there. It was just a way for, frankly, my simple mind to create three buckets: brand, culture, and strategy, and be able to put all of these things in some type of order.
Well, I will acknowledge, so I haven't read the full book, but I have read part of it.
That's it. I'm out of here.
No.
Sorry, I had to do that.
I know. I almost did it earlier myself, and I said, no, I'm not going to chance anything. But oh, you were hilarious. Okay, so I want to acknowledge, though, that what I have read, I was surprised, because this is not a subject that I'm so eager to digest more of. But you actually write it where it's not only digestible, but I feel your personality comes through. It makes it fun to read. So, good job. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. I've heard that before. I love hearing it, and it makes it worth, the trials and tribulations of writing that sucker, because I wrote it all myself. And, if we got time, I'll even tell you about the chapter that literally got deleted. It had to be rewritten. But, people have told me this, and I think it's one of the best compliments, that when they read the book or read my articles, that it's like having a conversation with me, that they know it's me. And so I even joke, because people say, are you going to write another book? And I'm like, maybe not, maybe, if I have this big chunk of time. But, my point is I could never have it ghostwrited or have somebody else write it for me, because they'll know exactly, I know Ken, that's not him, because as my wife tells me, I write the way I talk.
I think it makes all the difference. And I think it's just another little, I don't know if tactic is quite the right word, but another little thing that can be employed to connect with your audience. Would you say?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like Popeye. I am who I am.
Or that.
Yeah, I joke. Well, a more professional and branded way to put that is that when you try to be something that you're not, when you try to be someone else, it almost always falls flat. You might as well be yourself. Everybody else is taken anyway. And another great book, almost as good as mine, was a book titled Choose Yourself, I believe. I know it was written by James Altucher. And one of the things that I took from him, which I try to adhere to in my business and my business dealings, is that, look, if you're truly yourself and you're putting yourself out there and what you believe and what you're trying to teach, odds are there's going to be three groups of people. You're going to have a group of people that just love what you have to say and completely agree with it. You're going to have another group of people that, just hate, everything that comes out of your mouth. And then there's another group that's kind of apathetic. And so, I don't, God bless the people that, hate what come out of my mouth, but they're obviously not my target audience. So I don't worry about trying to reach them. I worry about catering to that third that appreciate what I have to say, and more importantly, find value in it and implement it. And I also try to get some of those people in that apathetic bucket, hey, all right, we could agree to disagree, but why don't you come along on this little topic with me? To try and cater to, the 33% that can't stand you anyway is that's going to be a real rough ride.
Okay, I have a question for you. So what is your take on how many touches or contacts it takes to connect with those people that are in the apathetic bucket to bring them more into, being interested?
Yeah, while I certainly believe in marketing data, that's not necessarily my area of expertise. I certainly don't. While I certainly don't have anything scientific. But since you put up that great book, one of the things I think I mentioned. One of the things. Yeah. Hey, look at that. One of the things, if I remember it right, that I mentioned in the book, it was either an article or I mentioned in the book, something that I call the baker's dozen of comprehension. Is that the old rule of thumb when I was going through marketing training was that it took about 7 exposures. Okay. Whether that was advertising or radio ads or newspaper or whatever, that was in the days before social media. Dating myself, that it would take at least 7 exposures for somebody to really get it. To really get, hey, that isn't just a funny commercial, that actually is Miller Lite. Or, hey, they're talking about Cadillac on the radio, or so on and so forth. Right. I think today, with all the noise, that it takes, at least a baker's dozen of exposures to really connect with somebody that you're not already connected with. I mean, once you're connected with them, then it gets a little bit easier. But if you're trying to drag somebody from the apathetic bucket, it's gonna take a number of exposures, which is why I'd rather focus first on connecting with those people that actually are in my niche.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that too, because I think it can be easy when you're an entrepreneur to forget that like not everyone's going to be your person, and that's okay. If someone leaves, that's actually a good thing, right? Less energy wasted on someone that's not, a good use of your time. So, okay, next question is: do you only work with organizations, or do you work with individuals as well?
I've worked with individuals. Where I tend to do my best work is between, I'd say, 10 to about 250 employees, give or take. I've worked with businesses that have been just solopreneurs, and have worked with individuals with the intent of growing that particular business. But certainly I've done that. And I've certainly worked with businesses that are well over 250 employees. But I find that service-based businesses, financial institutions, salons, restaurants, even worked with a bus charter company once. Businesses that where the service is as or more important than the product, between like 10 to 250 employees. That's where I tend to do my best work, and people have a easier time getting it and implementing it, if that makes sense.
Okay, it does. So, okay, if we are getting near to the end of our show today, if you have questions for Ken.
No, I've got a couple more hours.
I love that reaction.
I haven't eaten anything since breakfast. That it's 8:45 to 9 here in Omaha. I don't need to eat. Let's keep going.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, you're going to get to eat soon.
Awesome.
I want to let all of our live viewers know that if you have questions for Ken, his unique background, being an entrepreneur, having published written a couple of books on entrepreneurship and branding and strategy and culture and that sort of thing, or he is the founder of the Police Officers Credit Union Association. If you have questions for him, please go ahead and type those now so we can go ahead and connect with those. And we do have one comment here. Let's take a quick look. We've got
Go for it.
Murphy Thomas saying he so agrees. People that don't get it are not going to get it until they get it. Spend the time and resources on the tribe we vibe. I love that, Tom. Yes, awesome.
It even rhymes. That's cool.
I know, right? That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Kudos, Tom. So, okay, I had another question for you. I want to ask it. What was it? Oh, this is what I want to ask you about. I love your energy, Ken. And I want to know, what are you passionate about?
Well, that's talk about loaded questions.
I know, right? I got another one right after that. So,
Okay. I'm passionate about doing good business. That might seem very simple. But I want to do good business. I enjoy the client work that I do. I'm passionate about the work that I do with the Police Officers Credit Union Association. Even to the point, that you made earlier, not every client is your client, or not every business is your client.
Right.
I've gotten to the point in my life, not that I couldn't use the cash flow, because you always could. But I case in point, the client that I'm going to have the pleasure to work with in Minnesota this weekend, kind of found me through articles and social media and so forth, I believe, and asked me to do their strategic planning facilitation. But before I got that gig, the CEO called me. He says, I've got a few questions. I'm talking to a few different firms to do this for me. And, back in 02, 03, 04, I would have treated that call kind of vanilla, in that, all right, I don't want to really say anything that's going to keep me from getting the gig. And,
Wow.
But now, the approach is, all right, this is what I mean by B plus C plus S. This is my foundation. This is how I work, and this is how I derive value or offer value to those types of programs. And in a very nice way, I said that either resonates with you, and then great, we're going to do an awesome job together, and plus we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. Or, we can stop wasting each other's time. God bless you. I hope your business goes great, but I'm going to go and do something else now, because I don't have the desire to try and force a client into my business. So, yeah, I think that's what I mean by, I'm passionate about doing good business.
I love it. Okay. So next loaded question. You ready? Do you need a break?
I don't need a break. I'm gonna change your show to the loaded question instead of every day is a new day.
Every day is a freaking awesome day, and we're gonna get to the heart of it. Okay. So you are a young guy with many, many years to go, but I want to ask you now, what is the legacy you want to leave?
I think that, I'm already in the process of leaving it. I certainly don't want to leave this earth tomorrow. I hope I got a little bit of time left. But I believe that, even if, something did happen, if I slipped down the stairs and cracked my head open on the way to getting a meal this evening, there's a book out there. There's articles, there's videos, there's all of that stuff that I put out there. So I hope that people, whether they ever become a client or not, use it and implement it, and at least find one idea. Sometimes that's all you need. Find one idea from all of my stuff per se. So I think I've already done that. And the Police Officers Credit Union Association side, even if I turned it over to somebody else, which I'm not planning on doing anytime soon, or sold it or whatever, I will still always be the founder. Those folks are together, and certainly I didn't do it alone. Scott Arney and a lot of other people helped. But by having a little bit of motivation and saying, hey, let's create something out of nothing, that may go on for decades. So I think, part of that legacy is already there. And then, go ahead.
Did you feel a sense of relief when you had written a book? When you had... Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, that's probably your best question. They were all good, but that was a great question.
Okay, good.
And don't go shenanigans on me over there. But yeah, that that's almost its own show, because I wanted to write a book for years, and tried a couple of different times, and it just never came to fruition. The strategic planning workbook that you mentioned was, really small. It was kind of well, let's get my feet wet and write something. And so, I got that out there just to say that I got something out there. But it wasn't the significant piece that I wanted, which, turned out to be the formula for business success. I wanted to do it myself. I didn't even want to make, millions of dollars from the book. I don't even think I've made thousands of dollars from the book. I wanted to just prove to myself that I could write it and do it myself, and have people read it and say, hey, you know what? You got something here. And so when I finally finished writing it and I actually saw it, not just, nothing against Kindle, if you like reading on Kindle, that's fine. But, actually seeing and feeling the book and said, hey, I wrote this. Yes, it was a feeling of pride, of course, and of relief. Is that, I finally did something that I wanted to do for years and finished it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a good, a nice little story to share with people too. Like, keep going, keep trying. If there's something that you really want to do, just keep moving in that direction. And then you get to have that feeling of like, oh, I did it. And knowing that you're leaving your legacy, and you're already leaving your legacy. Every little step, it just, supports you in taking the next one and the next one and the next one. But, yeah, I know what you mean. Finally, when you get something done and you're like, oh, yes. Okay. So we have a quick little hello from Anne. So thank you, Anne, for being
here. Hi,
Anne. And Ken, last I knew, you had a live event coming up. Is that still?
We do.
Maybe I should have asked him before, actually. I apologize. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about any of that.
Well, the next events that we have coming are related to the Police Officers Credit Union Association.
Okay.
We actually just finished the agenda for the 16th annual Police Officers Credit Union Conference in May, which will be in Washington, D.C. Okay. Still brings a little bit of a tear to my eye to say the 16th annual that we've been doing it that long. So that is the next big event that I've got going on, which will be coming up. What is it? It's actually only 6-7 months now.
And where can people find out more about that? Because there may be some people in that area. Or,
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. The easiest way to find out about the POCUA and any of our events is simply www.policecreditunions, plural. Again, that's policecreditunions.com. Okay.
And the audience for that are active law enforcement personnel. Is that correct?
It's primarily for credit unions, credit union executives and board members. But we are also, which is probably what you were thinking of, we haven't launched it quite yet for a couple different reasons. But we're also, through what we call the Soundness Initiative, we're also planning some summits for law enforcement and their families specifically. What we found, though, is that when we were about to launch a couple of the summits, and this is a good entrepreneurial lesson, too, that, back in the day, I would have just done it and thrown money at it and hoped that it worked. But as we did our research and we were going to launch the summits, we found that there were a lot of organizations doing some similar things. Like, for instance, a great organization called Serve and Protect out of the Nashville area had something very similar last month that we supported and attended called Strength for the Journey. Another great organization up in Sacramento, California, How to Love Your Cop, run by Vicki Newman. They're going to do some type of spousal law enforcement conference in March. And so we're going to support that. So what we're finding initially, rather than just tossing the summits out there, making these connections with these other law enforcement organizations are proving to be valuable, not only for our association, but also in learning how we can put this summit together where it will have a better draw, coupled with the fact, much like I talked about earlier, rather than just doing it myself or ourselves, how can we, create that great circle and get a number of great minds together to collaborate to do this.
Well, it sounds like you're taking an awesome approach, and it's going to be a really strong summit whenever
I hope so.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome to have a resource like that available, in service to law enforcement families. And so I think that's awesome, and I wish you all the best with getting that up and going.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah. So we're at the very end of our show. Ken, where can people find out more about you and the work that you do?
For your entrepreneurial folks, well, we already mentioned the police thing, but for Bator Training and Consulting, you can just easily go to www.btcinc.net. That's Bator Training Consulting, so btcinc.net. And you can learn all about brand culture strategy and the things that we do. And the two places that I'd suggest looking on the website first, there is a free ebook, which is kind of a corollary to the book that we've been talking about. It's called When Your Formula Doesn't Add Up. And it's a nice free short ebook that pinpoints some problems with brand culture and strategy and gives you some tips that you can implement right away to kind of fix some of those things. And the other place that I would, the other place that I would definitely go is we offer a service called the B+C+S audit, which is a one-time deal. You don't have to be this, year after year client. It's just a nice little analysis of your business's brand, culture, and strategy. That's a great place to start.
Very cool. Very cool. And your show Beyond the Call. Tell people where they can listen to that.
Well, because I've got all this free time on my hands, I do have 3 different shows. For those in law enforcement, I am a co-host of Beyond the Call. There's a couple places that you can find that. You can find it, of course, on a lot of the platforms. It's on Stitcher, iTunes, Castbox, Anchor, so on and so forth. You can also go to nationalpolicecu.com and go to their community page, and you'll see all the past shows for Beyond the Call. I also have a YouTube show called Branding the Experience, and a podcast called Cool Culture Corner. Those last 2 tie into, obviously, the brand and the culture piece of the B+C+S formula that we talked about.
Awesome. Well, Ken, do you have any final thoughts as we wrap up today's show? Anything lasting words you'd like to share with the audience?
Just simply, I had a lot of fun speaking with you, Kim. You're a great entrepreneur yourself. I love what you're doing with the show. This is a great format with the questions and the live viewers. I love it. The best thing that I can put out there for anybody that's watching or listening now or later, even if we never get the opportunity to meet or work together, grab that free ebook off the website. It's got, even if you get just one tip, and this is a good way to close, whether I read a book or go to a seminar and so forth, I always look to see if I can get just one tip and find it to implement it in my business that's going to help me, then I've gotten value out of it. So I hope somebody would do that with the ebook and any of the other content I put out.
That's awesome. And yes, I agree. Check out his free ebook for sure. Well, Ken, thank you so much for all your nice comments. I appreciate that. And it was fun. I knew it would be. So good to see you here again. And Thank you to all those who have been with us live and, commenting. We love connecting with you. So thank you for being here. And if you're on the replay, I hope you also will connect and let us know what you're taking away from today's interview. Hope you remember that no matter where you are today, every day is always a new day. And there's so many different things that we can do to keep that hope and that strength and keep moving forward. And I hope that if nothing shows up to you in your current moment of, what can I do next? If you're looking for a how can I move forward? How? If even just simply remembering that this is a moment in time and things will change. Nothing is permanent. Change is the only constant, right? And hang in there, things will get better. And I just really wanted to leave you with that today. And it's been an awesome show. So thank you to Ken. Thank you to you out there. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll see you next time.